On this show, we cover some sensitive topics.
Though the obituaries may be outlandish, the people are real.
Names have been changed or omitted in order to respect both the deceased and the survived by.
While death is no laughing matter, some petty last words can provide some pretty entertaining comic relief.
Welcome to Obituary. Welcome back to Obituary. I'm Spencer Henry.
And I'm Madison Reyes.
And we're finally in our little office.
Oh my gosh, it's great to be home.
Oh, back at the desk, back in action.
For a little bit. And
Yes.
then we've got our second leg of the tour.
Coming up, if you haven't gotten your tickets, Michigan, I believe, is sold out now.
Salt Lake City's almost sold out.
Yes, but there's still a handful of tickets in the other cities, so if you want to catch us on the road, just come hang out with us. It's obituarypodcast.com for tickets.
I love our tour.
So much fun.
I think we need to clarify what the VIP.
Oh, yeah. We realized we never told you guys about it. So basically, at the end of each show, if you purchase VIP, not only do you get priority seating, but we come out, we do a Q&A with everyone, and then we get to meet you guys and take pictures and do all of that fun stuff.
Hugs and talk and laugh and
As long as you're not sick, I get paranoid. Someone actually asked
I
me at
know.
one of the meet and greets recently, they were like, how are you handling all of this?
yes, because she was paranoid.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
And I was like, I get it, but I let Jesus take the wheel at the meet and
I
greet.
know.
I say, the Geoffs that pay a good money to meet me, okay?
Yes.
They're gonna meet me.
Uh-huh.
If there's a reason to get sick.
It's to meet you guys.
Yeah, I'll put my life on the line.
I know.
Knock on wood. So far, so good.
Knock on wood. The meet and greets have been my favorite so far.
We've heard so many good stories and so many moving stories. I mean, we've truly, throughout the Q&As and meet and greets, we've laughed, we've cried, everything
Truly.
in between.
You were sang to for your birthday.
Serenaded, proposed to
Oh.
at another show.
Oh my God. I also think we need to clarify, Geoffs, this is a show. This isn't just a live podcast. We're not even taping it. We're taking you through the obituary archives,
Yes.
essentially.
It's a whole ass journey we're going on. But one of my favorite stories was, I believe it was the Washington, D.C. show. We don't want to give anything away, any spoilers. But Madison, you have a little story in there that involves a toe.
I do.
Somebody came up to us, somebody's husband actually, who got dragged along to the show, and it is like, hey, you want to talk about a missing toe? And then, sure enough, this person tells us that they were missing
A toe.
a toe. And Madison's like, can we see it? And they're like, yeah.
He took his shoes and his socks off and
Uh-huh.
showed it to us. I loved it.
Yes, this was not a pressurized situation. All participants were willing in this.
Oh, I know. Yes.
But the person's wife sent us an email after the DC show, and the subject line says, clarification, missing toe in DC. Hi, girlies. Thank you for a wonderful show in DC tonight. She said, my husband is so embarrassing. Don't mind him. He always pulls attention to himself when he sees that I'm anxious and bitch. Seeing your beautiful
Aw.
faces sent me into full panic. I'm so grateful for his awkwardness tonight. I kind of blacked out while meeting you, so I don't remember what all he told you about the toe, so I figured I should clarify. No, I won't need to apologize for the length of this email. They wrote, in 2016, he grabbed a box of Christmas decorations from up high, and a weight bench plate was in the bottom of the box and fell out onto his foot. He crushed all his toes, but one went to the market. It just died and couldn't be saved. They first cut half of it off, and then after a few years of pain, took the rest. Since we were kids, he has kept pieces of his body in jars. Tonsils, appendix, 2 toe pieces.
I remember this because he's Jewish and he wanted to be buried with all of his
Yes.
body parts. Yes.
He tells the doctors it's a religious belief that he wants to be buried with all his body parts, but truly, he just wants to keep them as a party trick and show
Okay.
anyone who enters our home, which is Such a Geoff move. We are both in the Air Force, which means we move a lot. And during our last move from California to DC, we stayed in countless hotels, and I accidentally left all of his body parts in a hotel fridge in Colorado. We were 3 states away before I realized it. To this day, I feel so terrible for housekeeping, but I am low-key relieved they're not in my fridge anymore. Good luck on the rest of your tour. Sending you lots of love. And then
They're probably at the Mutter Museum.
there's a picture of Madison looking at his toe on stage. You're the fucking best. I don't want to name names in case you don't want to be named.
Okay. I vividly remember you guys.
You emailed us, well, of course. So I'm glad you emailed us. I loved the little update. But needless to say, we've heard a lot of interesting stories.
Oh my gosh, incredible. There were so many times we got teary-eyed.
Oh, people just telling the most beautiful stories of different parts of the show and how it's related to their own lives and how they've processed things. And it's just, that's definitely the coolest part to us and the most meaningful part of doing this show, for sure.
Oh, God, what a blessed life.
Blessed. Where are you trying to transition us?
I'm not. I don't have a transition. I do have a listener email, though. And I read the last sentence and I was like, what does that mean? I think I know what it means, but we'll get there. You guys will hear it.
Oh, you're not going to start backwards. Okay.
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I just actually learned that that's not how you read emails.
Oh, this show's going to start making a lot more sense.
Yeah, I've been going backwards this whole time.
We always have to reverse Madison's audio.
And my chair.
Yeah, she's facing the other wall right now. You don't want to know where the microphone's been.
Honey, it's in a different hole. We got to reverse it. All right, this is from Kayla. It says, hey, Spencer and Madison. So excited to have a reason to message you all. I started listening around Halloween last year and turned into a big fan. Thank you so much for the morbid stories and facts that I love to learn. During your new episode today, I had to stop and email you after I heard you talk about the cremation urn necklace. So glad to have a reason. When my dad passed away, I was 14. It was unsurprisingly a pretty hard time for me. My wonderful aunt bought lockets for my mother and I to keep a bit of his ashes in, keeping him close to our hearts. I was so appreciative. Mostly, I kept it safe in my jewelry case and only wore it for more special life happenings, things like graduation and the birth of our first baby girl. Oh, well, that wonderful baby girl is still amazing. However, either her or my stepdaughter, who is 4 years older than her, got into my jewelry, very curious.
Oh no.
And opened my locket that was nested in 3 different containers. So my father is scattered a little bit around the house forever. It was a little upsetting as I found out when I was getting ready for the birth of our next daughter. We didn't keep any extra at the time because it was his wishes to be scattered over his baby sister's grave who died as an infant, which I thought was so sweet.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a bit of soil the next time I visit his grave. My significant other of 12 years really liked the idea when his dad passed away several years ago, and I was able to get him one. We scatter a pinch of his ashes every time we go on a trip to a different place. We try to go somewhere we haven't been at least one time a year. His oldest is 14 and she has shown interest in one. I got her one for Christmas in bracelet form. She's so happy with it. Just wanted to give you our personal stories with them. We love them, honestly, even if he gets a little teary-eyed filling them. Also, his dad was the type to kid around. So we joke constantly when his urn ends up on the ground, very rarely, and sometimes on my chest in private sessions, and we just joke, well, he'd like it there anyway. Is that what I think it means?
I don't know. I don't know. Sorry for the loss of your dad, first of all. And thank you for the kind words about the show. And thank you even more for that fucking story because it's wild. And of course, kids would get into it. They'll find the hardest shit. The shit you were like, how?
How did you do it? I know.
Insane.
But I love mourning jewelry and just a great way to keep their memory close.
Yeah. There's so many different ways that I feel like we haven't even talked about yet on the show of like things to do with people's ashes.
I know.
I mean, shit, we're being surprised constantly.
Constantly?
Okay, well, I actually have a listener email too.
Oh.
And the subject line said, Glory Hole Gary update.
What?
Yes.
Our man?
We have a glory hole Gary update. Hi, girlies. First of all, I love, love, love your show. Secondly, glory hole Gary made my jaw drop open. Then I couldn't stop laughing. He used to work with my hubby on the council for that area, Hunter, Lake, Macquarie, and Newcastle. Council is like public work system here in Australia, and they take care of things like parks, public areas, public toilets, public showers, and regulations on certain buildings, etc. Gary was hilarious, but had an actual family with kids and everything. He did end up finally coming out, the poor guy, but the wife and kiddos didn't want to know him after that, so he said he had no family.
Oh,
Poor glory hole Gary.
I know.
He was quiet and shy, but man, did he come out with a flourish. He does or did own little darling dogs and was a fun and free spirit. Thanks for the
Aw.
wonderful, sassy podcast. Love from Flea in Oz.
Oh, glory hole Gary. You know what? He made a lot of people's jaws open wide.
If there's one thing glory hole Gary was known for, babe.
His jaw.
Jaw. Yeah. Oh my god, I love it. I just had to share that, but don't worry, I still have some Am I the Assholes for us
Oh,
today.
perfect. We've got all the holes covered here.
All the holes covered. The first one says, Am I the asshole for not telling my family that I'm going to die?
Ooh.
I, 23-year-old female, found out that I am terminally ill and likely only have a year left, even with treatment.
Holy shit.
I recently just finished my internship and was offered a job, which I quit after only being at it for 3 months because I found out and then I moved back in with my parents. My parents don't understand why and have questioned me quite a bit about it, and my response has been, I don't really feel like talking about it, and they've respected that. I have been moved in with my parents for about 2 weeks, and I got a phone call from my doctor, which my younger teenage sister overheard because I didn't know she was home at the time, and I had the phone on speaker. She started aggressively questioning me about it and accused me of being selfish for not saying anything and asked me what I expected to happen when I started showing obvious signs and got to the point where I couldn't care for myself. She demanded that I told my parents as soon as they got home, as well as my other sibling, grandparents, and even friends. I begged her not to say anything and she agreed not to, but expressed how she doesn't think it's the right thing to do. Now I feel really bad because I really don't want to tell anyone. I just want my last moments to be filled with happiness, and I feel like once everyone finds out, they're going to be sad and I'll have to cheer everyone up while coping with my illness, as everyone always goes to me when they're experiencing hardship, even my parents. So would I be in the wrong if I choose not to tell anyone? And am I the asshole for keeping quiet about my illness?
Ooh, that is a tough situation. While I understand why you don't want to tell anybody, I think you got to tell them.
Yeah.
Especially what that little sister is going to have to hold on to. If you don't say anything, is going to cause her so much grief.
It's hard, and I think people had a hard time too with this one. They voted her the asshole, but they wrote, honey, I don't want to call you the asshole here.
Yeah.
The honest truth is that you now live with your family. That means when things get worse, they're going to be the ones to take care of you and should really be aware and be able to prepare for that. I understand you don't want to hurt them and you don't want to have to console them while you're going through it, but I do feel like it's important to sit them down and have a conversation about it.
Yep.
Everyone's basically saying, like, I don't want to call you an asshole, but you gotta tell them.
Yeah, you do. I understand, like, it's your death. And again, like we talk about with people who do death with dignity, it's like, I'm so out of control. I want control over one aspect. And I think that's probably for her, like, her sense of control is not telling anybody.
Because I'm a hypochondriac, like, legitimately, like, if I had a terminal illness or something, I feel like I would have a hard time with that decision of, like, what I want to tell the people around me or what I want to not until I have to. But
right.
It's also not even just about, like, letting them know for them. It's also letting them know for you, because regardless of if you think you can handle something like that on your own, I do think in most circumstances you're going to want that support system.
Yeah.
That's a really hard thing to do with, especially at such a young age, 23.
I know. I can't even imagine.
Sad.
I would want to say goodbye.
Yeah.
If I could.
Yeah.
But everybody's different, so.
Everyone's different.
Wow.
This one says, am I the asshole for excluding my eldest son from the will and leaving everything to his younger brothers?
Oh, God. A will is always
Where there's a will,
drama.
there's a way, honey. Me and my wife, Paula, have 3 boys, our oldest being Jackson. Jackson, unfortunately, developed a drug addiction in college.
Oof.
Me and Paula did our best to get help for Jackson, but he refused to get better. Jackson's addiction has caused him to become extremely manipulative. He has no boundaries with what he is willing to do to carry his habit. I mean, yeah, that's addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Jackson has lied to me and Paula countless times about going to rehab and being clean when he was actually just getting high. 5 years ago, me and Paula made the difficult decision to distance ourselves from Jackson for the safety and well-being of our other sons, one of whom was still a minor at the time. We made it a strict personal rule to never, ever give Jackson money and told our other sons to do the same. Jackson has been attending Addict Anonymous meetings and claims that he has been sober for the past 2 years, but me and Paula are still cautious around him. We will not give him a house key. We'll celebrate his birthday by paying for dinner wherever he wants, but we will not buy him anything that he could possibly use to sell for drug money.
Mm-hmm.
Before Jackson was sober, me and Paula changed our will so that Jackson would not receive any inheritance in case something happens to us. We don't trust him. We believed he would go wild and end up overdosing. The plan was for our middle son to be the executor of our estate and divide the assets evenly between himself and his younger brother. We have not changed our will since. Jackson does not know about our will, only his brothers and Paula's mother, Susanna, knows. We were visiting Susanna the other day and she asked us if we were going to include Jackson in our will again since he has been sober for 2 years. We told Susanna that we are not going to include Jackson in the will because we don't trust him still. Susanna said she would not tell Jackson, but that we should have more faith in our son because he claims he's been sober for 2 years, now has a decent job, and seems to have gotten his life together. She also told us that in a serious financial situation, that money would be able to help Jackson and prevent him from becoming homeless, where he would be the most likely to relapse. Me and Paula still worry that Jackson's sobriety is another lie, or that receiving a huge sum of money after losing us could push him over the edge. Are we the assholes for continuing to exclude Jackson from our will and not having more faith in him?
I don't think so, especially because it's only 2 years sober, but I'm not a sober person. I think you would be better to answer this.
I mean, an addict is an addict. It doesn't matter what kind, alcoholic, whatever, drugs. At the end of the day, it's a lifelong thing. It's a disease. It's an illness. You're never going to overcome it. It's like a daily thing where it's like, yeah, I'm choosing not to participate in this anymore. I think that just like any sort of behavior, though, like if somebody makes strides in their life and changes in their lives and is like, I've completely reformed myself and I've had 2 years of continuous sobriety or whatever. I mean, I understand where they're coming from.
They seem like they're coming from it in a loving way. Like we don't want
very like they have no faith in him though.
Yeah.
And that to me is like, as a parent, I don't know. I think you should have more faith in your child. And it's kind of like an innocent until proven guilty. Because I agree with not enabling people. And I agree with maybe not even letting them know that they're in the will or something. But I don't know. It seems like they really don't know that much about his life.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm like, shouldn't you be invested?
Or like if he's moving on from the bad time in his life, they need to also. And they're kind of still in that space.
Oh, I had relatives. Like I mean, it's no secret I'm sober. I got sober when I was really young. And even in my 20s, I feel like I had random relatives be like, oh, I'm so glad you figured it out or whatever. And I'm like, fuck off.
Yeah.
You know, like.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That makes a ton of sense.
I don't know. It's just such a choosy topic too, because so many families are weird about addiction. Like they have these preconceived notions about addiction, which is something that prevents a lot of people from getting sober. A lot of successful people, because they're like, oh, well, a drug addict looks like this, or an alcoholic looks like this.
Right.
Like,
no, the alcoholic can have.
It looks like you can be the doctor. You can be the pilot. And
totally.
I mean, I've sat in AA meetings with every fucking type of person, like rich and famous to down and out. And it's like, it's fucking everyone. It affects everyone the same. So I think overall I agree that like it's good to be cautious, but I also think you have to be cautiously optimistic. I guess. Have some faith in your child.
Yeah. Oof,
that's my opinion.
Tough one.
It's tough.
Both of them were tough.
I know. Oh my God. Speaking of tough, have you watched the Sarah Lawrence doc on Hulu?
No.
It's wild.
Why do I know this? Why do I know Sarah Lawrence?
It's a famous very famous college.
Yes. And what's the story?
You gotta watch the doc. There's like this dad who like moved in to his daughter's dorm or something.
Oh, yes.
And okay, so I just started it last night. I only got like a few minutes in.
Maybe we can watch it tonight.
Yeah. I went and got my mulleted today.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, the guy was telling me about it. And I was like, yes.
Fuck.
So we need to like keep up with it. Because it was a while ago I started it. And I was like,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So we need to start it.
Oh, my God.
Why'd I cry at a TikTok of an ant last night?
No.
It's the saddest thing in the world, Madison.
Tell me.
Hold on. I gotta show you. Oh, one of your sisters just texted me. Oh, she's got her Yellowstone hat on. I got her. Hi, Dada, if you're listening.
Hi, Dada.
Oh, it makes me sad. Watch.
Oh, he helped them
Is
get
that
up.
only one? There's a few different ones.
Someone help that ant.
It's like, hold on.
Oh,
There's different, like,
no. Edits.
yeah, of ants helping
Each other
each
get up
other
onto
get
a
across.
leaf. Yeah.
And then the one gets left behind, and you're like, no, what? He's like trying to reach, like, wait, guys. There was like
Oh.
a few different ones of that, and I was like laying in bed last night, like, oh man, that's really sad.
Oh, no.
But then I was like, maybe the other ants. I had to make my story up in my head for it to be okay. I was like, maybe the other ants got themselves into trouble over there, and maybe the ant who stayed back is okay. But it's like these different types of worker ants that will help, and then one always ends up left behind because they can't get across.
Okay, but have you seen a magnified ant's face?
Yes.
Because it'll make you feel a little better.
No, I still feel bad for them.
Honey,
I've seen them.
honey.
Yes, they're angry. You know what? I'm angry too a lot. Okay.
Put a mullet on it. It's you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm up first this week.
Yeah, technically, yes.
Technically. Do you have a side bitch?
I sure do, but he is a main bitch, and his name is Mr. Richard Belzer.
And he's an ant.
Do you know his name?
No.
He was Detective Munch on Law and Order SVU.
Oh.
And was one of my favorites. He passed away in France. He was 78. Do you know the actor?
I think so.
I'll show you a picture of him. You'll know. I don't know if I've actually talked about it on this show, but I am like a lifelong.
You're a huge
SVU
Law and Order, yeah.
fan. Yes. Look at it's loading like when you used to try and look at porn in like the 2000s. Like it's like loading just part of his face. Oh, come on. That guy?
Oh, yes. I know exactly.
Okay.
He died?
Yes. Recently. He passed
looks
like 3 weeks ago.
Anthony Fauci. A little.
Richard Belzer's Detective Munch is one of television's most iconic characters on Law and Order SVU. Creator Dick Wolf said in a statement to Variety, I worked with Richard on the Law and Order Homicide crossover episode in 1997, and I loved the character so much that I wanted to make him one of the original characters on Law and Order SVU, and the rest is history. Richard brought humor and joy into all of our lives, and he was the consummate professional, and we will all miss him very much. Richard Belzer was born on August 4th, 1944 in Bridgeport, Connecticut. His penchant for comedy grew out of an abusive childhood and a mother who beat him and his older brother.
Ooh.
She always had some rationale for hitting us, he told People magazine in 93. My kitchen was the toughest room I ever worked. I had to make my mom laugh or I'd get my ass kicked. His self-described uncontrollable wit in the classroom often landed him in trouble, and his stay at Massachusetts Dean Junior College ended abruptly when he was expelled for organizing on-campus protests. A series of odd jobs followed, including a census taker, dock worker, and jewelry salesman, and for a time, he pursued a career as a journalist and worked for the Bridgeport Post newspaper. A tragedy made Belzer reassess his priorities. 3 years after his mom Frances died of breast cancer, his father, Charles, a salesman, distraught over his wife's death, attempted suicide in 1967.
Fuck.
Belzer found him and saved his life, but a year later, his dad succeeded.
Ooh.
Belzer's brother, who produced the radio program The Comedy Hour, would also later die by suicide, leaping from the roof of his Upper West Side apartment building in 2014 after his wife, Sesame Street director Emily Squires, had died.
Oh my God, all the connections.
I know.
The tragedy.
His father's death hit Richard hard, and he decided it was time to take a risk and try comedy, which is like what ended up leading to his acting career. Then there was Belzer the the author. He published books on a range of subjects, including 1988's How to Be a Stand-Up Comic, 2000's UFOs, JFK, and Elvis, conspiracies you don't have to be crazy to believe, and 2008's I Am Not a Cop, a novel which centered on an actor named Richard Belzer who plays a TV cop named Munch and investigates a murder. Survivors include his third wife, actress Harley McBride. They married in 1985, and she played medical examiner Alyssa Dyer on Homicide, and his stepdaughters Jessica and Bree.
Wow. Quite an interesting life.
Very interesting, very tragic, but also shows that if those tragedies hadn't happened, he probably never would have became an actor.
I was going to say that I love like a later in life, like, all right, I have nothing to lose. I'm going to take this shot. And then he's on a hit show and writing books. And
love it.
I love it. Hopeful.
Gives us hope. We've talked about it a few times. Like, we did a whole episode recently on like people's biggest regrets, and you know, you just got to go out there and do whatever the fuck you want to do.
Truly.
And we're gonna go take a quick break because that's what not what we want to do, but it's what we gotta do.
We gotta do it.
We'll be right back. And we're back. Well, Madison, I don't even got to ask you what's had you spinning in your coffin this week, because we made a very special little trip when we were in Philadelphia for our show.
We sure did.
Oh, excuse me, Phila PA.
Phila PA, get it right.
Oh, get it right, get it tight, baby. Well, we went to the Mutter Museum.
The Mutter Museum.
Also known as the Mutter Museum.
The Mutter Museum. We walked in and we said, hey, how do you pronounce this?
She went right up to that security guard and said, what's the deal? Is it Mutter or Mutter?
Yeah. And he said, oh, well, Thomas Dent Mutter went to Austria and changed it to Mutter. So we already knew we loved him.
Yes. And so we decided, because we had so much fun when we did our coffin spinner together for the Museum of Torture.
Oh.
That we were like, okay, there's so much shit here we need to talk about on the show. Why not do a joint coffin spinner?
Mm-hmm. So I thought I would take on a little bit of the history, because it is an interesting history, and take us through Thomas Dent Mutter's life a little bit, because it's very interesting. I learned so much about him.
I'm excited to know more about him.
Yeah.
And we're not going to like spoil things. We're, if anything, well, I don't know what actually you have up your sleeves.
Yeah.
But I know for me, it's just giving you the background on a certain exhibit in the museum that I feel like I wish I knew when I had gone.
Same. And honestly, nothing's going to spoil it until you see it in person. There's nothing like it.
There's some things there, okay?
Okay.
So give us the deets. Give us the lowdown on Mr. Mutter.
Okay, well, first of all, when I was researching this, I would take a break and then I would make dinner or make lunch or whatever, and I was getting grossed out.
Really?
I was getting nauseous. Truly.
I can't wait.
Okay, guys. So hope you're not eating. So the Mutter Museum is actually part of the College of Physicians of Philadelphia, which is a very old, and I believe is the oldest private medical society.
Yes.
The college was founded in 1787, and they're who own the Mutter Museum. Philadelphia, I just fucking loved Philadelphia so much. There's so much history. Did you know that the first medical school and first public hospital were in Philadelphia?
Phila PA, you guys are just on top of your shit.
Killing it and saving it.
Yeah.
I also read from Smithsonian Mag that in the early 19th century, you didn't need a medical license or medical degree to practice medicine in Philadelphia until the end of the 19th century.
I love it. Remember they used to have fucking barbers doing shit to
willy-nilly.
people? Yeah.
Willy-nilly. Ugh, anyway. The Mutter Museum website describes it as America's finest museum of medical history. The Mutter Museum displays its beautifully preserved collections of anatomical specimens, models, and medical instruments in a 19th century cabinet museum setting. The museum helps the public understand the mysteries and beauty of the human body and to appreciate the history of diagnosis and treatment of disease. Very well put. And they forgot to mention it's wild.
Yeah,
as it is.
Wild.
The museum was actually a donation by Dr. Thomas Dent Mutter. He donated 1,700 of his own personal possessions to the college, along with $30,000 in exchange for the college to maintain and safely house his collection, but to also add to it and use it to educate and improve medicine, which the museum has definitely done. And now they have like 25,000 items collected, and it's growing.
Yeah.
So Thomas Dent, Mutter, this man's life, especially his contribution to the medical field, is incredible. Quickly, he was born March 9th, 1811 in Richmond, Virginia. And when he was 7, his whole family died.
What?
Okay. Literally, his little brother, John, dies of an illness, then his mother, then his father goes on a business trip and leaves young Mutter with his grandma. His dad dies on that trip, and then his grandma dies of gout. And so by the time he was 8 years old, he was orphaned.
No wonder he's like started collecting weird shit.
Well, he started collecting. We'll get into why he started collecting, but he was placed with a guardian, and he wanted to study medicine mostly because he had a chronic condition known as biliary colic, which results in like intense pain in your upper abdomen. And it's like when something blocks your bile in the gallbladder. I was trying to figure it out. So he has had this chronic condition his whole life, and so he decided to study medicine. He went to Hampton Sydney College in Virginia. Then he went and got his MD at the University of Pennsylvania in 1831. After college, he traveled around a little bit and he studied under a few surgeons. He went to Paris, Austria, traveled around, then made his way back to Philadelphia to open his own medical practice where he made house calls. And then he also taught as an assistant teacher of surgery at a school of medicine. What I've read about him is that he was like so flamboyant. He was a little cocky, but he was fucking smart and he was really good at what he did, that like seasoned physicians would look at him and be like, hey, can I scrub in and watch you do a surgery? And by 1841, at like the age of 30, he was appointed the chair of surgery at Jefferson Medical College.
Wow.
Really, really an absolutely incredible surgeon. But I said he was flamboyant and kind of cocky, but he stressed the importance of treating his patients with respect and cleanliness. Clean tools, clean clothes. He would explain every single detail of a condition to you and every detail of your upcoming surgery. He would prep for days and stress the importance of post-recovery. And he was a big advocate for recovery rooms and 24-hour care after a surgery, which you don't think is that crazy now, but we know what fucking went on back in the 1800s. He was also the first in Philadelphia to use ether anesthesia, which was the first type of anesthesia we ever used in surgery. And this was when anesthesia was very frowned upon and looked at as extremely dangerous, which it is, but
they're like, just take a shot of whiskey and bite down on this bullet and let us do it.
Right. But he was a big advocate for anesthesia. But his specialty was reconstructive and plastic surgery, which makes sense after you get to know what's inside of the Mutter Museum. One of his techniques that is still used today was known as the Mutter flap or the Mutter flap, which was basically skin grafting used to treat burn victims. Huh. And they still call it that. There are not many biographies on him, but a woman named Kristen O'Keefe Aptowicz wrote a book about him called Dr. Mutter's Marvels. She was interviewed by Robin Lindley of the History News Network, and Kristen said, quote, when it came to plastic surgery, he chose to treat monsters, which was a medical term then, like idiot was a medical term. And this was a time when people rarely sought surgery and wouldn't agree to it unless their life was at risk. When you were designated a monster, it meant you were so deformed that there was no treatment for you. There was not a field dedicated to doing surgery on people while they were awake that was cosmetic. Who would voluntarily be experimented upon in the way you'd need to treat deformities? Mutter was attracted to plastic surgery because it was a new field that he felt he would be good at. He was bright, innovative, quick, and clean, and he knew when he found solutions, he could execute them exactly as he saw them in his mind. He also realized he had a kinship with these patients, and he wanted to see them treated respectfully as he was in his childhood. He did not want them to feel ignored and not seen. Being seen is so important as a human being, and for Mutter to look at an ignored patient and say, "I can help," was meaningful for both parties. I have a theory about why he dressed so flamboyantly. The patients had operations in theaters with all these strange men staring at them, and it must have been terrifying. It must have comforted them if Mutter said, "They're not looking at you. They're looking at me because I wore this new suit." It's like he shared some of the eyes and the judgment. Mutter died at the age of 48 of gout in South Carolina, but he had this collection, right? So why did he have this huge, almost 2,000 piece collection of oddities? Well, Kristen in that same article says, in that time before photography, it was a way of showing students what unusual cases looked like. Pathological specimens became very important. You'd have wax replicas or models or dry or wet specimens in jars. Mutter collected these things. He was one of only 3 plastic surgeons in the country, and by far the one who did the most radical surgery on the most damaged population. He saw unusual specimens to challenge himself and ask, if this person came to me, how would I help? He rescued the samples from hospitals and other doctors, as well as bar rooms and sideshows. He wanted to make sure that they would be respected as medical teaching tools, and he wanted to keep them together. So that's the reason he donated.
Wow.
And again, there's not a ton of research on him, but he's fucking prolific.
There's so many books at the museum that I wanted to buy, but we both packed our suitcases so fucking tight. But I was actually looking at their website while I was working on my coffin spinner for today, and I was like, okay, I want to order some of these.
Yes, absolutely. And it's refreshing to know that, yes, he had all of these oddities, but it wasn't a sideshow to him. It was all to help. He wanted to study these people with different ailments and be able to help them feel not like, quote unquote, a monster, which is wild that they were ever called that. But
of course.
A few things that stuck out to me most in the museum. I mean, the soap lady, duh. We've talked about her.
Honey, if you're coming to our live shows, we've got a slide for you.
So I'll leave that at that. You got to come to the live show to hear about her. But Einstein's brain was there.
Yes.
That one kind of took me back a little bit. I'm like, oh my God, that is his brain.
Well, she was actually looking at a foot, and I said, no, his brain's the next one over.
Yeah, Einstein and I are not related. So Albert Einstein, as you guys know, is the most famous physicist of all time.
E equals
MC squared, which is a great Mariah Carey album. You remember she named it that?
No.
Oh, it's a good one. It's a really good one. He died in 1955 due to an abdominal aneurysm, and he was 76, I believe.
Isn't it crazy to hear how recent? I mean, really, when you think about like, oh, our parents were born only a few years later.
I know. I remember growing up, my mom had a teddy bear that was Albert Einstein, and she still loves it to this day.
Oh, we need a picture of it.
I'll get a picture. It's cool. I feel like we've talked about it a little bit on this show before, but Einstein was cremated. However, during his autopsy, his brain was removed by a man named Thomas Harvey. And if he had permission to do that, that's still up for debate. I also heard he took his eyeballs. I don't know.
I remember vaguely talking about this.
Yeah, probably in like one of our first episodes. Thomas Harvey. Tommy
to us.
Friend
of the pod.
Yeah.
Tommy Harves.
Honey, he lost his job for this. People were pissed. The family was pissed. But he kept some of Einstein's brain. The rest of the body, again, was cremated and scattered in the Delaware River. His brain was sliced into 240 pieces to be studied, and the Mutter Museum acquired 46 of those slices, and we got to see them up close and personal, which was so cool.
It was.
And a few things about his brain. Although he was in his 70s, apparently his brain looked way younger than your typical 70-something brain.
Ooh.
I mean, I didn't know what I was looking at. I could have been looking at a squirrel's foot or something, and I wouldn't have known better.
Say hot dog's trigger word. She's right
Oh,
behind
no.
you.
But did his brain look any different than the average human? Did he have a genius brain? Well, I researched it a little bit, and Atlas Obscura says, quote, at first, scientists who analyzed small sections of the gray matter saw nothing unusual, but by the 1980s, some began to find intriguing features in areas involved in visual, mathematical, and spatial processing. It turns out that Einstein's Sylvian fissure, a prominent groove, was shorter than average, while his parietal lobes were slightly wider.
He's got the widest parietal lobe.
And his left inferior parietal lobe richer in glial cells, which nourish neurons. Neuroscientists have theorized that this architecture may have allowed Einstein to think with the kind of associative play of images that he claimed was key to his discoveries. However, the typology of Einstein's brain can never completely account for his brilliance, in part because we don't know what came first. Was Einstein a genius because his brain looked this way? Or did it look this way because he was a genius? It's hard to know, especially without a lot of other Einstein quality brains available, the article says. You hear about Einstein in school so much. It was just cool to see.
Yeah.
His brain. Really cool. Okay, we also saw a tumor in a jar, and it belonged to Grover Cleveland. Now, Grover Cleveland was the 22nd and the 24th president of the United States. When I read that, I was like, what does that mean? And he's the only president that served 2 terms, but not consecutively.
Huh.
Crazy. Came back for more. In the 1890s, he discovered that he had a tumor, and it was a pretty big one, inside of his mouth, on the roof of it. He needed to be operated on because it was growing and spreading, but he didn't want to be operated on. But he weighed all of his options and decided to do the operation, but it needed to be completely secret. Nobody could know, not even the vice president could know, because Grover feared that if the public found out, that they would completely freak out. And if the vice president found out, who knows what could have happened. Maybe he could have been gunning for him, you know?
Going for the job.
So he ended up having the operation on a yacht docked in Long Island with a bunch of surgeons. The surgery only lasted about an hour and a half, and Grover lived for another 15 years. And no one ever found out about that surgery until years and years later, although there were rumors. So about 10 years after Grover's death, one of the doctors who operated on him finally admitted to it because there was a journalist who reported on the surgery when it happened. But no one believed the journalist because they created like a whole smear campaign, made the journalist's life hell. But because he was right, you know? But Grover did not want that out at all.
Interesting.
So that doctor came out 10 years after Grover died and was like, hey, I need to set the record straight. Like, this man was raked through the coals for years, and I need to make it right. So we saw that tumor that started it all.
God.
I know. We also walked by a cast made of 2 conjoined twins, and it caught my eye, and so I read about it, and they were Chang and Ang Bunker. They were conjoined twins from Siam, which is now Thailand, and that is why it's not politically correct to say any more Siamese twins, but that's where we got the name, was from them. They were born in 1811. They were joined by 4 inches of cartilage in their abdomen.
Oh, you know what? I've heard about these guys. I was reading about them literally last week because I was working on a cult leader about like the dark history of like circuses.
Yes.
And they were in the circus, right?
Okay, so yes, at 17, they were purchased by Western people and brought to America, and they were basically part of a freak show, and they were put on display for everyone to gawk at. They eventually married sisters, they had children, and they toured with P.T. Barnum. But on January 17th, 1874, Chang dies. A few hours later, Ang dies. Now, at the Mutter Museum, they not only had a cast of them, but they had their livers. And this was super interesting because the College of Physicians of Philadelphia, which is where the Mutter Museum is housed, was actually where their autopsy was performed, which is also where their death cast, I believe, was done. And so I was thinking, I thought that was just like a cast of them to see, like to show them. I'm like, no, that's their death cast. And then their liver, and the autopsy revealed that they were in fact connected by a part of their liver.
Crazy.
Really crazy. And then a couple honorable mentions. They had Madame Dumanche, which was a horned lady. This like piece of horn started growing out of her head. And they had a mega colon there, which was wild. Huge. So that's what I got for the museum.
Okay, all right.
Saw a lot of dicks there too.
We did. We saw a lot of dicks there.
Loved it.
Every second of it. Well, we'll take a quick break.
I want to hear your perspective.
Oh, honey, I got a perspective. Interesting story, and I feel like it actually, like the person that I'm going to mainly be talking about kind of aligns with Mutter. So,
okay.
Cool. We'll be right back.
And we're back. Let's hear what you had to say about the Mutter Museum.
Alrighty. Well, I'm going to be focusing on one specific exhibit at what I would call the center of the Mutter, pretty much. I would say it's kind of like the main exhibit there, which is the Hyrtl skull collection.
Oh, yes. We spend the most time there.
It's one of, if not, I think the largest exhibits there.
Of human skulls?
There at the museum. And we both went into it not really knowing the background of the collection, and we were still taken aback by it, like stopping and reading all of the little placards. A lot of them were labeled with like ages, names, some of them had causes of death, some were blank, some contained partial information. Overall, it felt to me kind of bizarre. It's always one of those surreal things when you're staring at like this case of skulls and you're like, these were once
humans.
Inside of bodies like ours. Like, that's what's going on under here. I hope.
I don't know.
But the backstory that I learned during my research was mind-blowing. It's wild, and there's also like a pretty dark history lesson we're going through today. I read an article on Atlas Obscura that I wanted to share, and I also watched a really well-done video that I'll talk about momentarily. But first, I wanted to know more about the origins. So I looked into the man behind the collection, and his name was Joseph Hyrtl.
Okay.
And Joseph was an Austrian anatomist who made a lot of strides throughout his professional career, and he garnered a lot of attention after becoming a professor at the University of Prague when he was 26 years old. So he's another kind of like young prodigy in the medical
Doogie
space.
Howser.
Most of his life's work was dedicated to dismantling the idea that was popularized by phrenologists at the time that cranial features were evidence of intelligence and personality, and that racial differences caused different anatomical differences as well. According to the official Mutter Museum website, Hyrtl's aim in collecting and studying these skulls was to show that cranial anatomy varied widely in the Caucasian population of Europe. In 2021, Atlas Obscura published an article by April White called The Eventful Afterlife of a Crowd of 19th Century Skulls. It says, in many ways, the Mutter Museum in Philadelphia is proudly stuck in amber. It's the 19th century in there, exhibition manager Michael Keyes says of the museum of a museum, where human remains are displayed in glass cases surrounded by gleaming polished wood, much the way they were when the gallery opened in 1859 after the death of surgeon and medical artifact collector Thomas Dent Mutter. The museum acquired the collection in 1874, and for decades the skulls sat in their original cases overlooking the museum gallery. But through the years, there's been little alterations made with the display. In 2010, for example, they replaced all of the skulls mounts that they were on because vibrations from people walking through the museum were causing damage to the bones.
Wow.
And recently, in September of 2021, they did a complete renovation of the exhibit. But the Hyrtl skull collection is made up of Europeans who were not by law given bodily autonomy, such as those who died of suicide, were executed, or died in a workhouse. For the Mutter Research Institute, this often means balancing contributing to scientific research and preserving and respecting the human remains in their care, which is something that I always think about, like when you're in a museum, especially, I'm like, how did this get here? Should this be here? Should we all be looking at it?
We did that episode on skeletons, and it's like, these were not
yours for the taking. But I guess all of the skulls there have undergone CT scanning and a series of x-rays that produce cross-sectional images, and this has created a large data set for researchers interested in studying such conditions as concussions or sleep apnea. So they've been helpful.
Wow.
And digital scans of the skulls have also been used to teach facial reconstruction, which is a necessary skill for locating missing persons and identifying remains. The Mutter is also currently exploring the possibility of extracting genetic material from a tooth root without damaging the skulls. I think really they're just trying to figure out a way to make sense of the ethics, especially in recent decades. But I watched this video called The Dark Story of Phrenology from a YouTuber named Patrick Kelly. I am obsessed with his channel. Everybody should go watch him. I'll link the video. But he talks about phrenologists, and phrenology as a whole is a pseudoscience based on the belief that somebody's character and mental faculties correlate with the shape of their head.
Yeah.
Basically. And he talked about how in the 1800s, phrenologists would feel the bumps on your skull and like tell people what it meant, kind of like palm reading,
Yeah.
but with their heads. And phrenology was also used to justify high-level bigotry, and according to Patrick, kicked off an age of scientific racism that peaked during World War II.
Yeah.
In 1775, a Swiss theologian named Johann Lavater came up with the concept of physiognomy and basically stated that your face shape determined some of your behavioral characteristics. So if you had a long forehead, it meant you were intelligent. Short foreheads indicated volatility and so on.
Oh.
There was no factual research to back this, but people really ran with the idea of your skull determining what you were like as a person. Anatomists and upper-class Europeans started to collect the skulls. Some of them were just wanting to learn more about the person behind the bones. Others were treating them more like trophies, which we know we have a long history of keeping bodies for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
The mummy parties is something I always think of.
What did we read the other day that we're not supposed to say mummy anymore or something?
Oh, yeah, you're supposed to say mummified person.
Persons, yeah.
That's like the museums are saying that we should start saying that. And we're like, how about they put the mummies back where they came from before they start telling us what to call them?
Okay.
So in that video, he also talks about a guy named Franz Gall who grew up this really intelligent kid. He was always like the smartest in his family, smartest in his class. And when he grew up, he went to medical school and observed that many of the classmates who he deemed to be intelligent had bulging eyes. Something that he had, I guess, all his life correlated with intelligence.
Oh.
He theorized that this was because their brains were so big, it was literally causing their eyes to bulge out of their heads.
I have very small eyes,
Well,
by the way.
Franz became a doctor in 1785, and he started working at a mental asylum soon afterwards. And when he was there, he continued with his theories. And at that facility, he spent a lot of his time looking for like shared common traits with the different patients that were at the mental hospital who had all been deemed quote unquote insane. He noticed that many of them had bumps on the side of their head, which to him meant like, oh, maybe that's it. Maybe because everyone has a bump on their head, that's why they're all here. They're all crazy. So anyone who has a bump on their head must be insane. And it's just kind of like running with the rhetoric that the other guy I was talking about had, where it's like long forehead, smart.
It's so ridiculous.
None of it's factual.
Yeah.
He actually published his findings and devoted much of his life to researching human skulls, which to him would teach us more about human behavior. And he eventually amassed a collection of over 300 human skulls and started giving lectures on phrenology, originally in his home, and then it spread. But what they would teach is the basic principles of phrenology, were that the brain is an organ of the mind. The brain is a collection of faculties, and each faculty has its own organ. And the more active an organ, the larger its size. They said that the shape of the brain is made by the development of these organs, and the contours of the skull can be used to learn about the organ. So basically, I mean, they used to look at brains entirely differently too. They used to look at it as one piece, that everything was controlled throughout this one specific piece. Whereas now we know there's all the little different parts of the brain. And also when you look at like a phrenology bust, I mean, they have them everywhere. I've seen them at fucking Home Goods where they have like the bust, you know, and it has all the little things.
All the writing and stuff. Yeah.
That's all phrenology. So this guy, Franz, one of his most devoted followers who started attending his lectures was this young guy named Johann Spurzheim, who fully believed in these teachings and became his predecessor, his right-hand man. They start going around together lecturing, but eventually Franz is banned from Vienna, where he was from teaching about phrenology. So he's like, okay, well, I'll pack this up and I'll hit the road. So he goes all around Europe teaching about phrenology with Johann. And then eventually that Franz guy retires. Johann takes over and continues spreading this. And he was celebrated for his lectures. But soon enough, critics started to come in and wanted to debunk phrenology. It was a very short-lived period that phrenology was taken as a literal medical thing, but it was really popping off at the time. And in 1832, Johann brought phrenology to the US, and people were
Just what we needed.
just what we needed. But let me tell you, people were impressed. They were like, oh my God, they made him a celebrity in the medical community because they were like, we've never heard of this before. This is so brilliant. Unfortunately, he died of typhoid 3 months into his US tour. And afterwards, a group in Boston started a new phrenological society made up of doctors, physicians, and rich white men, basically, who instantly wanted to gatekeep the theory of phrenology. They knew that a lot of people were looking at it as a metaphysical solution. And also around this time, people had started giving phrenology readings in the US. And they were like, stop going to these random people for head readings.
Yeah.
This is a real thing. It's a medical thing, even though we know it's really a pseudoscience. Phrenology continued to spread like wildfire throughout the US. And then eventually, a man named Samuel Morton comes into play, who had collected over 1,000 skulls. He had the biggest collection of skulls at the time. And he was a piece of shit, a white supremacist. Most of the skulls had been taken from indigenous people without permission. He added a lot of fuel to the fire under the claims that biologically white people were superior. He's like, it's not racist, it's just anatomy. The skulls are different, even though they're not.
Right.
He couldn't have been more wrong. He published his writings in this piece titled Crania Americana, and literally he had just created this hierarchy based on race contributing to behavior, where he was like, white Europeans' skulls are like this because they're not, violent or whatever. And then, oh, the native people and yada yada and so on, they love war because their brains are like this and their skulls are like this.
What year was this?
This was in the 1800s.
Okay.
But eventually in the mid-1800s, the enthusiasm for phrenology was lackluster. People started to throw phrenologists in the same vein as psychics and astrologers because there's no scientific data to back it up. It was just too subjective. And this is where we enter Joseph Hyrtl. He knew that people were no longer really buying this shit. He knew that people looked at it like it was a little woo-woo, but he's like, I'm gonna fucking tell you why you're wrong about this. I'm gonna tell you why they're wrong about this. So he set out on a mission.
He was a debunker.
He went out on a mission to disprove phrenology, and he built up his own collection of skulls, many of which he should have never had in his possession because nobody should have.
Right.
But at least he was out for the greater good. Kind of like Mutter, where he had these body parts, he had these skulls, but he was using them as a means of teaching people and debunking the racist history behind phrenology.
Right.
And he had all kinds of skulls, and he was like, look, there's bumps everywhere on these skulls. And because I know the background of many of the subjects whose skulls I have, I know that the claims that these mean anything beyond the fact that they're just bumps on a skull, your theories on behavior being related to these indentations and whatnot are all bullshit.
Yeah.
He was quoted as saying, the functions of the individual parts of the brain are so puzzling that a doctrine which attempts to delimit the abilities of a human being by measuring their skull could only be invented by idiots for idiots.
That's right.
Yeah. According to the Mutter Museum, they acquired the skull collection from Joseph in 1874, which is 20 years before he passed away. I don't exactly know how this handoff went. There doesn't seem to be a lot of coverage from the newspapers at the time. I tried looking it up. I was looking up the Mutter Museum in 1874. That must have been the year they acquired the twins. Or whatever, because they kept popping up. But I do know that upon his retirement, he started to sell his anatomical collection, and the Mutter Museum acquired the 139 skulls in 1874. They were used to train medical students at the school and then later displayed as the museum's mission changed from solely medical education to public outreach. And in 2008, the skulls were scanned, blah, blah, blah. That's when they started like figuring out more of like the backstory and keeping tighter records of them, I guess. But
Wow.
that's how they got there.
Wow.
That's what I know.
Wow.
It's just cool because there's so many like heroes that we hear about and we learn about, but I'm like, these people were really out there fucking changing history.
I know.
Here's this guy who fucking went out, and I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people who may know about him, but I never even heard his name before.
No,
until we went
never.
to the museum.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh shit, he's like why people aren't talking about phrenology today.
Yeah. It's really cool that, because in most of the articles I read, they reference how the Mutter Museum is a place where, and we saw, there was a field trip there that day that we were there. Like it's kind of one of those rite of passage places that you go to when you live in Philly as an elementary school or middle school student. They hold a lot of field trips there. I'm like, oh, we didn't have anything that cool. We had the aquarium. That was it. You know, like nothing
we
cool.
had different places that we went and learned about different people, but I feel like it's mostly region based.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a world where if we didn't do this podcast, I would have never heard of this guy. And probably a lot of you listening right now, this is your first time hearing about them. But there's obviously so much more to these people's stories. But I mean, we love a debunker.
You know, when the Today Show had Kathy Lee and Hoda, Kathy Lee had like a song and a segment called Everyone Has a Story. And that's how I feel. Everybody has a story.
Wow.
And it's wild.
Speaking of people with stories, how about we get into some obituaries?
Let's do it.
Who you got?
Oh, I'm first. Okay, I have an obituary from the Rock Island Argus newspaper from August of 2006. Old Deaf Bill, the Alton mummy, finally resting in peace.
Huh.
Just at the edge of the St. Francis of Assisi Church Cemetery in Portage de Sioux, steps away from the shrine marking the grave of two parish priests, William Deaf Bill Lee finally lies at rest. His flat gray granite grave marker shows his name, a figure of a fisherman, and 3 dates: 1863, the year he was born, 1915, the year he died, and June 24th, 1996, the day he was buried. Where did Deaf Bill hang around for 81 years? Lee, who after death became known as the Alton Mummy, was a poor, hard-of-hearing fisherman known for delivering drunk sermons on the Missouri and Illinois riverbanks, said Troy Taylor, who has written about the oddities of Alton. Deaf Bill would deliver sermons on street corners and in Sunday morning church services, and his exploits landed him in jail several times. A man named Bill Bauer operated a ferry that crossed the Mississippi River and came to know Deaf Bill, a frequent customer. Bauer also owned the Bauer Funeral Home in Alton, and when Deaf Bill grew older, Bauer signed him into the Madison County Poor Farm. He died there on November 13th, 1915, at age 52. Residents of the Poor Farm usually were buried in a potter's field, but Bauer decided to hold on to Bill's body until he could find relatives who perhaps lived across the river in West Alton. During the time of Bauer's search, he also was experimenting with a new embalming procedure, which he used on Deaf Bill. But as the corpse remained at the funeral home, the air dehydrated it. Nobody came forward to claim him, and Bauer never got around to burying him. The body was moved to a closet where it remained for several decades. Bill was propped in the closet for guests to view him. He was about 5 feet 3 inches tall, weighed about 50 pounds, and had a mustache. His legs were crossed and arms folded. The skin was leathery and dark and felt like wood. A traveling showman once offered the funeral home $2,500 for Bill, but the morticians refused to sell. School children would come by to see Deaf Bill, and requests to see him always went up around Halloween. Tom and Dallas Burke bought the funeral home in 1948, and Deaf Bill was part of the deal. Tom Wyatt, coordinator of the Alton History Museum, remembers going to the home for a funeral when he was a college student in the early 60s. He was not quite sure whether the tale of the Alton mummy was true. He asked a funeral home employee who led him to a closet and opened the door. And there, in a corner, stood Bill, his arms crossed in front of him, wearing a diaper. The skin was very black, kind of petrified-like, Wyatt said. The first time I saw him, it was quite a shock. Several years ago, the funeral home offered Deaf Bill to the Alton History Museum, and the board said no, that would be just dreadful. Museum founder and Alton historian Charlene Gill said, people soon agreed it was finally time to lay him to rest. Dallas Burke and Brian Fine, co-owners of the Burke Fine Funeral Home, called the Reverend Michael Sandweg, who was the pastor of the Catholic Church in West Alton. Sandweg checked church records and cemeteries and learned that Edward Lee, who died in 1884 at age 4.5, was buried in St. Francis of Assisi Cemetery. Sandweg wasn't sure whether the boy and Bill were related, but he heard that both had parents named Thomas and Sarah. That late June day in 1996, more than 350 people filed through the funeral home to see Bill one last time.
Wow.
He lay in a varnished poplar casket with...
I'd say popular.
Popular.
A lot of people there.
With gold trim. His hands crossed over a bouquet of red and white carnations, and his dark hair and mustache neatly combed. He wore a donated turn-of-the-century suit and trousers with a white shirt and black string tie. 6 men from the Knights of Columbus Council in Alton served as pallbearers, and about 30 others stood under a tent for a graveside service.
Wow.
Oh, he was just unknown.
What an incredible story, though.
Incredible. Love Bill.
Mine's fucking weird
Okay.
this week.
Okay.
Bear with me, it's kind of long, but you'll see. After a dynamic, wide-ranging life during which she had several lifetimes worth of occupations, achievements, and children, the Honorable Patricia Kruger died peacefully on Monday, February 20th in her home in Francistown, New Hampshire at the age of 81. As he had been for 35 years, her husband Ortwin was by her side. Patricia was a natural storyteller, a gregarious politician, a skilled designer and cook, a wheeler dealer, and a hoot. She was a big thinker whose restless spirit and boundless energy allowed her to reinvent herself time after time. Patricia never let the total accuracy get in the way of a good story, but even she could not overtell her life. The eldest daughter of Carl and Helen PA, Patricia, Pat to many, was born in Bayonne, New Jersey on December 22nd of 1941. She grew up surrounded by Irish aunts and uncles, Italian cousins, and amongst the trappings and traditions of the Catholic Church. She is survived by 2 of her sisters, Pamela Philbin and Charlene Kellerman, and her brother, Chuck Pepe. She was predeceased by her sister, Michelle. As a student, Patricia was smart and driven. She earned a scholarship to attend Mount St. Mary's Academy in Washington, New Jersey, where she excelled academically and perhaps more for height than skill. She was the co-captain of the school basketball team. To pay her way, she scrubbed floors, often as wealthier girls stepped over and around her. She was given the honor of studying the harp, which she never again touched, instead of learning to type, which might have been useful given her illegible handwriting, which she attributed to the nuns forcibly retraining her from left to right-handedness, which that was a thing. Pull out the ruler. Patricia went on to Georgetown University, where she earned a BS in nursing. Though Patricia did not associate herself with the second-wave feminists of the time, she nonetheless chafed against traditional structures and pushed the limits of her gender. She had hoped to become a doctor, but was informed upon arrival that the nursing program was the only track available to women. To afford her final year, she enrolled in the Naval ROTC, and upon graduation in 1963, she was commissioned as an ensign nurse at Bethesda Naval Hospital. She was present when President Kennedy's body was brought to Bethesda and claimed that there were 2 bodies that came in that night.
What?
Both supposedly Kennedy's.
What?
This was an ambiguous conspirational twist that she maintained with a conviction typical of her enduring faith in her own worldview, even in the face of conflicting facts or logic.
Shut up.
I read that and I was like,
chills.
what the fuck? Well, You're like, well, I bet there was, Jesus.
Well, you know he's coming back, or his brother's coming back. You know that.
He is to get the vaccine
Yeah.
away from the children.
Yep, brother's
okay?
coming back.
Patricia was beautiful and stylish and never lacked male admirers. Shortly after graduation, she met and married John DeSando and had their first son, Eric, forcing her to leave the Navy. Over the next 6 years, they had 5 daughters, Courtney, Rachel, Jessica, Thea, and Gabrielle. Patricia taught nursing and worked as an occupational health nurse and school nurse while living in various college towns with her husband, a professor. She had a growing need for kids' bedrooms and an eye for identifying the potential of historic homes and the energy to renew them. She bought, rehabilitated, and sold a house in nearly every place she lived, restoring perhaps 25 over her lifetime. During several periods, she turned this passion into successful antiques in an interior design business. By the mid-70s, divorced with 6 kids, Patricia met and married Prentice Colby. He knocked on her door looking for his stray dog. They had 2 sons, bringing Patricia's total to 8.
Oh my God.
From a drafty, dilapidated farmhouse 2 miles down a dirt road in Royalston, Massachusetts, Patricia commuted in an old brown Mercedes-Benz to Keene State College to pursue her master's in education. At the same time, she and Prentice set about using the rural acreage to grow much of the family's food, raise chickens, turkeys, and pigs, lovingly named ham, bacon, and sausage, and keep sheep, horses, ponies, and all manner of dogs and cats. So she's running the farm. She gets her master's degree. She's throwing events like a cross-country ski party, complete with hot cider and homemade donuts. She's just like a gal about town. She's fucking doing it all. We have to skip parts because it's just very long. But during this time, she became gravely ill with hairy cell leukemia. During months of hospitalization, she had a reputation as a comic and a rabble-rouser, entertaining the bedridden and smuggling them forbidden food. Her cancer eventually remitted, though the experimental treatments took a heavy toll on her body. In 1983, she went to work as the director of career counseling at Keene State College, gave up the rural life and settled in Keene, New Hampshire, where she met Ortwin Kruger, whom she married in 1988 in his native Germany. She had finally found her match, and together they bought an unloved historic home in Francistown, New Hampshire, and set about restoring it. At the same time, she took on a role as the president of development at the Crotched Mountain Foundation. She was driven to fundraise by her belief in the importance of the organization's mission. She delighted in her interactions with residents with disabilities and recruited and funded the enrollment of children from places as far-flung as Romania and the Virgin Islands. I don't want to diminish her because she had a really crazy career. She worked for like different political organizations all throughout and had all of these really important jobs. And eventually she transformed a farm that they bought into a thriving bed and breakfast. I mean, and a function venue. So she like fucking, she
Done
did
it all. Yeah.
But over the summer and fall of 2022, she suffered a series of strokes which limited her ability to speak and began to cloud her quick mind. In recent weeks, as the complications grew, she demanded to go home from the hospital, damn the doctor's orders. So in her home, surrounded by her impeccable decor, tended tirelessly by her beloved Ortwin, and visited by a string of her old friends, kids, and grandkids, her breathing slowed, then stopped, and she was off to reinvent herself one last time. She had such a fucking fascinating life, truly.
I'm still stuck on the JFK thing.
I know. That was the part, though, that I was like, I gotta read this.
Wow.
And I almost stopped there, but I was like, I gotta tell you a little more about her because she just had such an incredible life.
Uh-huh. Oh my gosh. Well,
we've spun in our coffins.
We've bitched our obituaries.
I guess that means it's time for some dumb
ass criminals.
Who you got?
All right. I personally have a no soliciting sign at my house because I don't like everybody fucking knocking on the doors, riling up my kids, okay? But every weekend, we get them. And I'm not knocking Jehovah's Witnesses. Well, honey, they're always knocking on my door. And I've told Cisco before, I'm gonna answer and I'm gonna tell him we believe in the devil. And like he's like, okay, just
they've heard it all, I'm
chill
sure.
the fuck out. Okay, I think they have, at least after this woman, because this happened in Fillmore, California in 2022. And this woman, Brandy Williams, was eventually taken to jail because she had an altercation with 2 Jehovah's Witnesses. Brandy's sick of everybody knocking on her door. So she sees these 2 Jehovah's Witnesses on their bikes 3 doors down. And she's like, all right, well, I'm going to fucking take off all my clothes and I'm going to chase them.
God.
So she does that. She starts chasing them. She starts screaming at them about her vagina. And she's calling it the devil's magic. She says, take a good look at my pussy. Succumb to my devil vagina magic. And she is chasing them down. She was finally apprehended without incident, and the kids were okay. I say kids, but the 2 young men were okay, and she was arrested, and here is her mugshot. She looks like she's still naked in it.
God.
She looks happy, though.
She looks like she would make a TikTok.
I know.
I don't know. I feel like because I talked to Val, so when I had Val on Cult Leader to talk about Jehovah's Witnesses, we were talking about all the crazy things that like people would do. So there's definitely, I have some empathy for the people. I look at it, I'm like, I'm not going to go out and tell you shit, but I'm not going to answer my door.
Yeah.
I am not coming to the door.
Right.
If you happen to come to the door while I'm standing there, I'm going to say I'm not interested.
Uh-huh. You got to be respectful to everybody. I know.
Can't tell them the devil.
I know.
See?
I know.
I'm also like, yeah, what was she charged with?
Probably indecent exposure.
She's probably going to be on like fucking, have to be on a list.
I don't think they were underage.
Well, there are people in the neighborhood that you can't do that in public.
Oh, that's true.
She's going to have to go door to door next, and she's going to have to start telling her neighbors, hey, by the way. God. Well, I got a gal this week who, I kind of understand. This Tanya Fowler, who has the same hair as me, she's from Georgia, and she was so upset when she came across her mugshot in a local broadsheet that she called 911 and was like, you need to take that down.
No.
She called in on a Sunday because her face had appeared in the bad and busted mugshot paper for her previous arrest, according to the police report. It says Miss Fowler contacted 911 earlier today in reference to being upset about a picture. An officer stated in the report, I informed Miss Fowler to contact 911 for emergencies, injuries, and violence only. But it wasn't the only time I guess she had called 911 operators that day. Before the mugshot, she had called to report that she needed a place to keep her sleeping bag.
Oh.
Uh-huh. Apparently, the residents of a random house in Commerce wouldn't let her keep her sleeping bag in her home. But look at her mugshot, and I'd be mad too.
Oh no, she looks like a poodle. She's got your haircut.
I know. She's got the same hair.
Oh, she looks sad.
Oh,
poor
please.
baby. Okay.
I don't know what she did to get there in the first place, but...
Oh my God.
Should we do some PO unboxing?
Yes, we should. Let me go grab them.
Okay, we have a lot of packages because we have been gone. Madison went to the PO box the other day. There's probably 40 to 50 packages. Mm-hmm. So we each pulled one for today, but don't worry. If you sent something,
we're going to get to it.
We'll get to it. What'd you got?
Okay, I have... Oh, it says unwrap your present before opening this card.
What could it be? What could it be?
Oh, it says, oh, please. Here's a DAC board game for y'all. Fits the theme. I got a
Dumb.ass Criminal? Dumb.ass Criminal board game?
Oh my God. Hold on. I got to open it. Hold on.
Who's it from? What does it say on the card?
Melissa Filio. Oh my God.
Melissa.
Can use my name. She says, I got a gavel and a judge board game too, but they got lost in transit. Let me know if you actually get them, though. Much love, girl. Oh my God.
Wait.
It's the Dumb Criminals board game.
Oh my God.
You have the right to remain laughing.
And is that an orange jumpsuit?
Yes, it is.
Oh my God. I'm
incredible.
So fucking excited. Oh, 2 to 4 player. We love a 2-player game because no one likes to play games with us.
Yeah. We like to play them on our Patreon.
Holy shit. Okay. That is amazing. Thank you so much.
Incredible.
I have so many games. No fucking way.
A Diet Coke fridge?
Diet Coke mini fridge.
Oh my God.
Are you kidding me?
Is there a note?
Hold on. Oh my god, no. There's no note. This is going to drive me crazy. Wait, does it say a name on the...
It's from Amazon.
There is no note. What the fuck? It is a Diet Coke mini refrigerator. Madison and I drink Diet Cokes every time we're recording. We are going to put this on the desk.
Put it on the desk, yes.
Oh.
Oh my god, how cute is that?
Cutest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Oh my god.
And something... Is it my birthday? Something I would have never bought for myself, but... Look at it. Oh.
Oh my god, how cute is that?
Oh my god, we'll post a picture of it. It's the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, and our Dumb Criminals game.
Oh my god, you guys do not have to send us presents. Are you kidding me?
Amazing.
Well, we love them.
Love them so much. Oh, so cute.
Love you guys so much. If you have stuff you want to send to our P.O. Box, you'll hear it next year probably at this point, but it's
I know.
P.O. Box 18149, Long Beach, California, 90807.
Get your tickets to see us live at obituarypodcast.com. Follow along on Instagram and Twitter at obituarypod. Write to us at obitpod@gmail.com.
And
What
I think
else? TikTok?
we have a
Obituary
TikTok,
podcast.
Obituary Podcast. We'll be back next week with some more coffin spinners
Obituaries.
and dumb
Ass.
criminals. Goodbye.
Goodbye.